Hey everyone, welcome to the FORTIV podcast. I'm here with my longtime friend, Brady Flynn. Brady is a serial entrepreneur, father of four, married for ages to Lindsay. So stoked to have you here. Thanks for being here with me.
Yeah, Seth. Well, it's been such a pleasure watching you grow into just the man you've become, the dad you've become, and now this incredible coach and just what you're doing with Fortive. And what is Fortive? And why are you've been a long time coach and you're coaching entrepreneurs, business owners for big corporations, and you've sort of shifted into a niche in this coaching world. Like, what is that?
Yeah. FORTIV came around about a year and a half ago. I started just, when you're starting to dig into that well of like why you're doing what you're doing and it starts to get a little dry. FORTIV came about as this idea of like, gosh, like I really love, like one of the reasons I loved coaching is because it's not like a therapy conversation where you're going back. It's not a consulting conversation where, someone's telling you what to do and how to implement everything. Literally a curiosity conversation about the future and about like what could be. And so it's a very future-based conversation about what you're capable of, what you can create, why God put you here. And I just was having trouble finding a deep integrated space where you could explore the future, explore the fullness of what you're capable of, and do it do it with Jesus, do it in union with Him, do it really in the most deep way that I've found of how to explore the capabilities of how you're made. Is it's like, who better than to have Jesus with you exploring that? So really that's the heart of like the heartbeat of FORTIV. You asked like, what is it? And so literally the name FORTIV is a mashup of two Latin words, fortis, which means strength, and vivis, which means life. When you put those together, you get this mashup of a phrase called alive with courage. And when I think of FORTIV and I think of like the men that I want to go pour into and launch out into the world, I'm even for myself, I want to go out into the world, into my marriage, into my business, into my family, alive with courage. And I think that tagline really sums up like, what is FORTIV? FORTIV means alive with courage. And we need more men that are fired up to go live alive with courage.
Yeah, I love that. And so like the people that you are coaching, how are you conveying this to, like, I mean, this is a need in our culture. This is a need in men. What is it that you're seeing that you're finding people are then attracted to this?
Yeah. So couple entry points. One is like, so when I think like who is FORTIV for, I'm thinking the entrepreneur, the business owner, founder, the nonprofit leader, like anybody who's out on the frontier lands of their life, creating things that they've never done before. Really, that's what FORTIV is designed for. What are you longing to create in your heart? What's your heartbeat wanting to go create? But oftentimes gets suffocated or gets reduced in some way. And so you end up living sort of a reduced life of like what you're made for and what you're here to do. And so, yeah, and we can talk a little bit about like, how do you actually go do that? But
Yeah.
really, I think like that's what it's for. To sum it up, it's like guys that want to go adventure with God and be intimate with Him, because most of the time we don't need God because we're not living adventurous lives. We're living lives that are pretty comfortable. We're designing for comfort. We're trying to get that 401k built up. We're trying to do all these things to make life so comfortable and so predictable. And if you get 30 or 40 years of that, guess what? You retire and your life is pretty unfulfilling. You're just like, what? I did all this to go rest like for 7 days a week? Like that's not what my heart's made for. My heart is made to go create things. And so really FORTIV is designed to rescue men from small, unfulfilling, shallow lives and get them back out into the frontier lands. And that's what we're made to do as men. Like, let's go create new trail, chop new trail, and create new things that are needed in the kingdom and needed in our communities.
It made me think of, I just saw a post from one of my friends of something that his dad had said where he was back from college and his dad was talking to him. Something I was stuck with is that the dad was sharing that it's so backwards how when we have young kids and they need us the most, we spend most of the time working, building our businesses, and the family gets neglected.
Yeah.
And then when you're finally ready to have time, your family's out of the house and they're all gone.
Yeah.
And now you're empty nesters. And it's such a sad thing. So I think part of what you're talking about is how do you how do you live in a full way now while you're doing the thing instead
Yeah.
of making this big sacrifice of family, of health, of all these things that can happen as an entrepreneur, speaking from experience,
Yeah.
of working too much and traveling too much and the family gets burnt and then that can, so like, I guess what are the needs that you're seeing and how are you offering something different?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. I would say, I mean, as you were talking about that example of like career versus family, oftentimes we can get stuck in either or thinking. Like either I can have a rocking career and a crappy family, or I can, and that's not what our hearts want. Like we want to be able to have both in our lives. And oftentimes we're just not put in a conversation where we're tasked. We're not giving our brain the task of what could it look like to have both? How would I do this, right? How would I have like a powerful impact in my business and show up powerfully at home? We're just not having those conversations at lunch with our buddies. Like we're more having conversations around, sports and different things like that. And so I think just having a space to go work that out, go to the gym and go work out that problem is something that's missing. And then the two areas that I see that powerful leaders, high performing men, where they get stuck a lot is they get stuck in faulty belief systems, like where they're actually believing things that aren't true. And then second, faulty ways of seeing themselves. So like identities that don't serve them, like really limiting false identities. And so, after years of coaching, if I could sum it up, that's typically how the most poignant, most powerful place that people get stuck is that they're believing stuff that's not true and they're seeing themselves in ways that aren't true. And so I think where counseling, consulting, and even just performance coaching can run shallow is that we don't get into those deeper parts of like, what are your belief systems? How are you seeing yourself? And who better to guide us than Jesus, like to go back into those places and start recovering the truth of who you are, who he says you are. I guess an example of that would be is like, so I wake up in the mornings and I'm typically anxious. Like that's just my starting point usually. And for whatever reason, anxiety is kind of running. And so what I'll do is I'll start getting curious, like, where's this anxiety coming from? Like, what are the belief systems that are underneath this anxiety? And if I start poking around, pop the hood up, one of the, like, there could be a myriad of beliefs, but the recent one recently has been like, it's all up to me. Like that's the belief system that I'm waking up with. And it's all up to me. Right. So if I let that roll around, like in my head for a bit, it starts taking root in my heart and starts creating an identity. And the identity is like, I'm the alone one. Right. And so imagine waking up believing you're the alone one and stepping out into your day. Like what kind of breakfast are you going to have with your family? Like what kind of like commute are you going to have? Like what, like how will you greet your team at work? Right. Like, cause you're the alone one. Right. Like, and so the way we see ourselves determines the trajectory of our lives, like every single day. And so if we don't know how to see ourselves correctly and see ourselves for how Jesus sees us, like we're dead in the water. And that's exactly what the enemy wants. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast, but there's a war on your heart,
I am hyper familiar with the negative voice in the head and the battle. And we obviously just we're part of a group of Christian businessmen that just went on a pretty killer retreat that was through John Eldridge, Wild at Heart. And this battle is such a challenging one to be able to counteract those things. I would love to hear from you. What are the things that men are really longing for? What is it to be a healthy man? And then what are the like true longings of a man that I think are being missed a lot because of this loneliness? As an entrepreneur, it's a really lonely place to be leading at the top and leading other people and have to always know what to do and have to always be right. And you have to be always like on it, and you're supporting the family and you're like supporting these other people that work for you. There's all these pressures that are on you. Yet there's also these like desires to be more and to be greater and to be leaving legacy. Right. So what are some of those things that you are seeing?
Yeah, no, it's so good. Yeah, man. So when I started Ford, I was asking God, like, hey, what do we want to set this up on? What are the pillars that we want to set this up on? And he gave me this image of like Joshua in the Old Testament. And if you guys aren't familiar with the story of Joshua, like Joshua was the right-hand man to Moses that helped lead the Israelites through the desert. And they're sitting there at the Jordan River, getting ready to cross and go into this promised land, right? And they send spies over, and Caleb comes back and basically, and like the spy troop comes back and they're like it's a beautiful land. Like, it's flowing with milk and honey. It's flowing with fruit. They show these big grapes they bring back. And Caleb's like, we could totally take this. We can do it. And everybody else in the spies is like, no, we can't. Like, it's like the Nephilim live there. There's these large giants. I mean, it's scary, right? Like, the promised land, ironically, is very scary. I mean, it's very analogous to like a lot of the places that we go in our lives. Like, hey, like, I want to go double my business. Like, well, there's a scary world out there of like how to go do that. And
There's a risk, there's an unknown.
totally, yeah. So it's like this promised land, but it's coming with giants in it, like, and so, and it says that they saw themselves as grasshoppers in their own eyes compared to the inhabitants of the promised land. So notice they were seeing themselves a certain way, right? And so, like, so basically they don't enter the promised land. God sends them back into the desert for 40 years to go wander because they wouldn't trust him to take them in. And then Joshua comes along, and the charge to Joshua, this is to answer your question of like kind of the constructs of a man that I think are really helpful, is like the charge to Joshua is like, hey, go take the land, be strong and be courageous, for the Lord your God goes with you. Like, 3 elements to that. Be strong. So I think for a man, one of the things that's lacking is that we have strength. Like, just look at our physique. We're strong. We're a stronger species than the females. So like, there's a strength that God wants to have for us, right? And I think one of the things that we men are lacking right now is the strength of heart. And so going back to my previous conversation, when we're living in limiting beliefs that don't serve us, lies around our identity, it buries our hearts. And we're not strong. We don't have the strong heart that allows us to go cut new trail, go take promised land, go fight battles, right? So I think strength of heart is a huge thing, like that like men are desperately needing right now, so that they can then go be courageous, which is the second call, right? Be strong and be courageous. We're designed to be courageous. We're designed to be the first ones in. We're designed to lead our families. We're designed to protect, right? Like, and if you don't have a strong heart, good luck in trying to go be courageous at anything. To go, have that hard conversation with your business partner, or go lead that conversation with your wife in that dysfunctional piece of your marriage, right? Like, if you don't have the strong heart, you're not going to go be courageous to do that, because it's buried. It's buried in lies. It's buried in defeat. And so I think those 2 things are huge. And then the third thing, for the Lord your God was with you, I don't think me as men see Jesus as a resource as we're pressing into these hard things. So let's say you have a strong heart. Let's say you said, I'm going to be courageous and I'm going to go have that hard conversation with my wife. Instantly, we typically jump out as men and we forget that Jesus actually wants to go with us. And we try to go do it on our own effort. And lots of times it goes down and crashes in flames because we're not going with him. And so, like, whether it's fear you're stepping into, whether it's hard relationships, whether it's creating something new, like, how do we learn how to do it with Jesus so we can co-create with him and sort of live out this full calling of be strong, be courageous, and doing it with Jesus? And the other question you mentioned was around the heart of a man. And so I talked about what maybe is needed in the heart of a man. But like, I think, like, when you talk about desire, I know for me in my 20 years of like Christian upbringing, I was always taught to really be skeptical of my desires. Like, my desires are sinful. My desires, like, don't trust them, out of the heart is like wickedness and all these things. And recently, over the last 2 or 3 years, I've learned that, man, there's a lot of really beautiful things in my heart. A lot of things that are like kingdom stuff, like heaven stuff, like stuff that is meant to be created like through my heart. And so there's these desires in my heart. Like, I want an epic marriage where we love each other until the day we die. Like, I want kids that know their true identity, like know Jesus in an experiential way, that aren't afraid to go into the world to create what they're made to create. Like, those are good desires. Like, I want a happy fitting business that can support my family and I can be generous with that, right? Like, those are good desires. Like, to sum it up, Eldridge really sums this up really well, where he says the 3 core heart desires of a man are an adventure to live, a battle to fight, and a beauty to rescue. And I'll say that again just to let it sink in, but like, an adventure to live, a battle to fight, and a beauty to rescue. And as I've let those marinate in my heart for the last 3 years, it's really true. I was just like, wow, like, anytime I have free time or I'm daydreaming or whatever, I'm always dreaming about an adventure. I want to go to Baja with my friends and go surf. Like, I want to plan like right now I've been really obsessed with, like, I've never done this before, but I want to do touring skiing, where you hike up like and then split board and then snowboard down, and I've never done that before, but that sounds like an adventure to me that I want to go do with a bunch of guys. And so, like, But I think what we're realizing is we're missing, I think guys are missing the adventure that's in their lives today, like right now on a Tuesday. Like that bride you have out there, that beautiful bride that you captured and like and wrestled to the ground and said, will you marry me? Like there's some gnarly stuff about that amazing being that isn't it's a total it's like super adventurous and super crazy to go bring up certain topics that are getting in the way of you having like the marriage of your dreams, you know, like there's an adventure there. Like I mean recently I've been wanting to like really like teach my kids how to have an experiential relationship with Jesus. I have no idea how to do that. Like I'm like a couple of years into this myself. I'm just learning it. And like, but I so desperately want that for them. And that's an adventure, right? Like for business, like I want to go, like I want to double my business. Like that's an adventure. I've never done that before, right? So adventure to live, battle to fight. You know, as boys, you know, growing up, like I remember probably from the age of like 12 down, all I could think about was killing people, like making swords, like playing army, jumping out of trees, you know, zip lines, you know, everything that you could imagine. And really what I was training for is I was training to be a warrior, like training to go fight things, right? And then you get to your teens and you're like, where's the battle? Like I've been training for the last 12 years, right? And I think, you know, some men go join the army and they actually like go to battle and go do those things. But I think one of the battles that we're missing as men is we don't realize that we have an enemy. The Bible talks about like the unseen realms and how Satan wants to just take our hearts out. And like every day, Satan is roaring like a lion, like circling our house, like trying to figure out ways to take us out of the goodness of what God wants. And so there's a massive battle like on our hearts. And I think as men, we've got to wake up to this reality, this unseen reality of attack that's on our heart, on our families, on our vocations. And so there's a huge battle to fight for us that if we want to engage it. And then this beauty to rescue, man, like just I was talking about our wives and our kids and even just things that are beautiful in this life. Like there's an attack on things that are beautiful and good, you know, like in our marriages and our kids. And like, so, you know, the core heart desire of a man is like to go in and rescue the beauty. Like every amazing movie has that storyline of like how the man goes in and rescues the beauty and restores things back to the goodness of what they're made to be. So I think like just calling those desires in a man's heart good, I think is just a refreshing like hey, those are good things. Like hold on to those and let's create a life around them.
I'm pretty sure that it's either in this John Eldridge stuff that we've been talking about, or ultimately it's this element where men are like settling to die. Like basically they're like giving up and settling now. This is it. And it's this quiet retreat. They're retreating from their family. They maybe get home, they turn on the TV, or now it's so easy to just get on your phones. And this is work. This is all that there is. There's just this like it's this death of everything that you're talking about. And just this settling is like, this is, I guess, what my marriage is. This is what I guess what work is. And this is it, you know? And it's, they give up like way earlier than they should.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is something that I see. And then also there's this other element of not really having examples of what this looks like. Whether I know you and me, we didn't have dads that showed us how to do this. And I think a lot of people didn't have dads that knew how to do this. And they just went to work and came home and probably worked too much and probably didn't spend enough time with the family. My dad was always working. And so, I'm the first Christian male, especially in my family. And so haven't ever had an example of how to be a good dad. I could be present. And initially it thought was like, I needed to provide. And so I just worked a ton and I was gone a ton, just like my dad. And realizing like what a sad, I missed so much of my like older kids growing up from just being gone, you know? Yeah. So I think there's this element of like, how do we catch this cycle that's happening of just this quiet, that's what it is, like this quiet resignation where we're just sort of settling instead of stepping into this adventure that we could be living now and bringing our families along with it. We are called to be leaders, yet I think we just passively let things happen. Are you seeing that, or like what are you diagnosing?
Well, I think what you're talking about is you're just talking about some of the default slides, like because when you think about like what operating system are you running off of, you're operating based out of what you were taught and what you've learned. And so of course we're going to run Our brains are fabulous. Our brains are so good at finding templates that have proven templates to help you survive, stay alive. And so they're going to go back to what they know and run those plays again and again until it doesn't work. Right. And so it's no surprise that we're going to go run off of the defaults of our dad, like what our dads taught us success looks like. Right. And so, yeah, I'm seeing that a lot where you get these really lopsided lives where men are, they're chasing, well, I mean, one of the things they're chasing is Eldridge says that like the core question that every man is asking is, do I have what it takes? Right. And like from a little boy, we're just dying to hear our dads say, you have what it takes, Tiger, like reel in that fish, like you got it. Right. Like, and so if that question is not answered like substantially as a young boy, like you're going to, and just even if it was answered substantially, like as a young boy, like you're still going to go into life asking that question, do I have what it takes? The mistake that we make is we take that cup that needs to get filled and I take it to you, my friend, and say, well, do I have what it takes, right? Or I take it to my wife and I'm like, do I have what it takes? Kids, do I have what it takes, right? Career, do I have what it takes? And the problem is that all those sources are not meant to fill that cup. I mean, you think about like when Jesus was at the woman in the well and he talked about like drawing living water where you never will thirst again. Like he's the source to answer that question. And so when we're not connected to him and we can't hear how he sees us, his love for us, we'll never get that cup filled. And so of course we're going to go try to find it out there in the world and let the world fill it, which is a total take you down paths that are not healthy. I think one of the most healthy things you can do is to get into a growth space, to get into a conversation, to get into a friend group that cares a lot more about just your success in business and is asking hard questions and saying, hey man, like what does it look like to be a powerful presence at home with your family and create a business that like you love and is thriving? And I think maybe from your example, how you said, hey, I was going hard in business, like you realized that like that ended up getting into shallow, dry waters and dry deserts, like after a period of time. And it was almost like a false illusion of what you were chasing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things that I learned was I was always struggling with when I was home, I felt like I should be working. And when I was working, I felt like I should be home. I actually just listened to the name Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
I was listening to an old tape that I found on my old CD case, and I just popped it in. But he was talking about this exact thing, and ultimately he was saying, "You're always nowhere." It's like and it's true. Versus being 100% where you are when you are where you are.
Yeah.
But then there's this balance, and I guess what is getting in the way of this, and what do guys do? I think part of it was like surrounding yourselves with this. Like you offer coaching around this, and possibly building a community, and you're going to have this podcast talking about all these different topics, which I think will be really, really helpful. But being a Christian man who owns businesses and has a family with 4 kids, like I was alone. Like I didn't know how to do this. And it's this constant guesswork and this constant feeling like I wasn't doing a good job.
Yeah.
And that's that alone. And I'm also a performer. So I am looking at my cup for all these things and my cup's never full.
Yeah.
What is the solution to that, or what's the stuff getting in the way?
Yeah. Well, if we were working together, I would really start getting curious around your belief systems around work and around like how you see yourself in work. Because if we were to pop the hood on that and start getting curious about that, you were saying things like I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I don't like maybe there's things in there like this won't work or I'm going to fail, right? Like all those belief systems, if you chunk all those down, they're rooted. There's 2 ways to see your life. You can see it from a place of fear or see it from a place of love. And so what do those belief systems sound like? Which one of those 2 do you think?
Fear.
Yeah. Yeah. So just notice like, hey, so to answer your question, I would say like fear is one of the main ways. Like if we're running off of some form of fear, like it's going to distort our thinking. It's going to turn us into survival. We're not going to use our creative mind to go figure out new solutions of how to hold work and family together. Like it's going to throw you into survival. Right. And so one of the main things that the Bible is constantly calling us out of is fear. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Right. And so I would get really curious around like, what fears are driving you like in that business, that season of like worrying and clutching work in such a way, like that are taking you out of your true ability to go be powerful at home and be powerful at work, right? So I think fear will be a place that I'd start double digging really, really quickly there. Because really, when we can start when we can start exchanging fear for love, like that, hey, you are loved in your business. Like you have a shepherd that walks with you in your business. Like you are beloved. He's not going to leave you out to dry like 3 months from now when it doesn't look like you have any income. Like these are just like core fundamental truths that we have to understand in our hearts in order to go, you know what? Like I don't have to answer that call right now. I don't have to stay up late and do these emails. And yes, I'm not saying like you don't put in long hours or do things but it's like there's a certain if we're carrying it in fear, it's going to manifest itself in some really unhealthy ways in your actions. Whereas if you're carrying that in love, it's much different. Even your family can feel it, you know?
Huge. Yeah. And I think in my earlier years, it wasn't rooted. It was all up to me. And then I was also looking with that cup to be like, am I good enough? Like, am I doing it? Am I good enough? Whether that was, I was trying to be. This is another thing too, is like, you don't even really, unless you know where your target is, it's really hard to hit that target.
Yeah.
And so I think we're trying to do these things and then we end up settling because we're not really, versus having a confidence in our faith and the stuff that you're talking about, which is like, I'm not doing this alone. And actually the only place that my cup can get filled is from God.
Yeah.
And being able to walk out of a confidence of a full cup, and then you can be a blessing to others. Then you can like do good in all these other areas.
Yeah.
Right? So it's probably getting stuff right first.
Well, you can actually approach these challenging tensions like family and work. Like you can approach it with a much more sober, grounded place that's not just rooted in fear. Because when we're rooted in fear, man, we make the weirdest decisions. Like I was just talking to we had some friends over last night for dinner, and the wife that we had over was Japanese, and she was telling us about like her grandparents and how they were in the Japanese internment camps, and how gnarly that was, and how they were farmers, their land got taken from them, and they spent 3 years in these internment camps, and then had to buy their land back. They didn't even it wasn't even returned to them. And so we just shake our heads like 60 years later, like or 70 years later, how did that happen? And it just dawned on me. I was like, well, that's because we were steeped in fear. We were so fearful of Japanese like living on our soil. And this is the kind of stuff that we do when we're living in fear. We make decisions like this. It's like, wow, this is what a life of fear looks like, Yeah. And I guess I would say too, is like each of us, we all have different playgrounds and things we're caring about, think like kingdoms that we're stewarding, whether it's at work or family. I think what is just such a rescue is to start getting into powerful conversations like this, where it's like, what is the desire of your heart for that playground? Like, what do you want to go create at work? What do you want to create in your family? Like starting to let the heart come out with its desires, and then just going like, wow, like what if that was the glory of God in you? What if that was the Imago Dei in you that wants to create this different family? You have a unique vision, a unique perspective from God. And then it's like, what's getting in the way of that? And I think like getting into these conversations around where fear might be robbing you and burying your heart for these things, it's so critical. And it starts to create, when you start getting out of being buried in fear, you're out on adventure again. You're doing things you've never done before. You feel like a man because you're creating again. And so that's really like the heartbeat of what I'm trying to create with FORTIV, is a space where people can receive that in a one-on-one deep dive coaching space. We can receive, like the other offering is like an executive peer group where we can get a crew of guys together and go on this journey together if you prefer to do that more in community. And then lastly is just adventure retreats, where we are just like hard resets out in nature, like doing split boarding or like Baja trips, whatever it is that helps get us back into that heart of a man again, back into the terrain of a man's heart in the dirt, and in the adventure. And so, yeah, that's what I'm excited to create with FORTIV. And
Seth, I am so glad that you're doing this, because this is a really needed topic for men right now. And I'm excited to hear where this goes, and I cannot wait to tune in for more. But thank you for challenging me. You are such a solid guy and doing such good work.
Thanks, brother.
Keep it up, man.
Thanks everyone for checking out the Alive with Courage podcast and my conversation with Brady Flynn. If you'd like to learn more about FORTIV and the coaching services that we offer, go over to fortiv.co. That's FORTIV.co. And you can see all the different options and ways that you can step into a powerful conversation to explore the fullness of what you're capable of and what you're designed for. See you next time.